Good number. So let me hear from who wants to share something result. I know Jay's got a couple results of making one more call. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I can go. On Tuesday, my one more call, I cold called a real estate agent that I just happened to find on Facebook. And I tried a new script, and it was really brief and really quick, but to the point. And she agreed to meeting with me. And we have a meeting scheduled for next Wednesday at 10:30. And then I had another one on yesterday with a transaction coordinator that I worked one time with. And she works with multiple people, multiple real estate agents. And yeah, she agreed to a coffee next Friday. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one more call. It's kind of like a game now.
Right on.
What was the script?
Yeah, what was the script?
Okay. Hold on one second. Let me pull it up. I haven't memorized it yet.
Well, somebody else tell me, anybody else got another one more call story while he's looking?
I had one yesterday. I got a list of like 30 leads from a realtor and was just calling them. And I called the last guy at probably 7 o'clock, and then me and him set up a call today at noon. So it was my one last call, and I got a meeting today with the lead. So
there you go. That's so funny. Who else? Dean, you said you had one?
Yeah,
raise your hand on, and if you've got one, so that I can call on you.
yeah, kind of almost a double one last call. I was out yesterday cold calling on builders, and I was in Edgewater, and I thought, man, there's a builder office not far from here, but I didn't have the address with me, so I Googled it. It took me out to Lakewood, and I kept thinking, man, this didn't feel right. And it took me to a clubhouse of a community, went inside, some old ladies playing dominoes. There was no office. I'm like, okay, this is weird. And I've been reading a book, Dream Big, and I walked back out, and in the front of the clubhouse, there's a quote by Michelangelo that says, the greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and we miss it, but that it's too low and we reach it. And I was like, oh, maybe this is the reason I was supposed to come out here, because I was supposed to read that quote. But I did go back, make some more calls. The last call of the day, I scheduled a meeting with LGI Homes up in Windsor. So that was another last call of the day.
Hold on. All right. Jay, did you get your script? You have your script?
Yeah, I have it. So it goes, hey, I need 30 seconds of your time right now, and I promise I won't be a waste of your time. I wanted to meet you months ago, and I didn't have the courage to call you then. And in the meantime, I've seen what I've done with my business and what you've done with your business. And I've seen how I helped a lot of my realtors make money, and I want to meet you. If I could help you make an extra 50 to 100,000 more this year, would it be worth a $4 cup of coffee to you?
So what'd she say?
She was like, yeah, that sounds good. So,
right on. Good for
got
you,
that one
dude.
from Dan Keller. So
yeah. That was on Mortgage Coach. Casey, have you used that script? I know you talked about this.
Yeah, I've used a similar one. You know, I don't throw the dollar amount in there, but very similar, because I liked that Dan Keller script too.
Right on.
People, I mean, it's people. How do you don't say no to that?
right.
Well, this strategy of one more call is just an idea that if you just take advantage of it every single day, it's like, I'm going to just call one more person at the end. Like, I'm done. I'm going to call one more person. It typically always turns out well. This could be a client. It doesn't have to be a cold call of a realtor. You could call a client and just check in with them. How are you doing? How's the house? What's going on? All right. Well, it could be, there's a whole bunch of things that you could do, but making one more call, the loan officer, I'm going to just keep beating this to death. The loan officer with the most friends wins. It's just that simple. And so this business is all about relationships, and that's what fanatical prospecting is all about. So let's talk about the book, takeaways from chapters 5, 6, and 7. The and let me just update you, Christine, because of some other stuff that she has going on, she's not going to do that presentation today. We're going to get that rescheduled, and I don't want to ask anybody else at the last minute to share something. So, but on the chapters 5, 6, and 7 in this book, I'll share mine, and then I'm sure that you're all going to have, similar things. The let's start with the first page. Just top sales professionals spend as much as 80% of their time on prospecting and qualifying activities for one important reason. They want to get up to the plate often and put together a consistent string of singles, doubles, triples, and home runs. I've been doing this. I do a lot of work with Insane Productivity, Darren Hardy's program, and he talks about the Sunday planning system and your vital functions and everything else. The vital functions of a loan officer, in my opinion, are number 1, to make it rain. Number 2, to capture and convert all, generate leads. Number 2 is to capture and convert all your leads into prospects. And number 3 is to convert prospects into one of 3 categories: pre-approved clients that are ready to buy, locked in refinance clients, or future clients if they're not ready or able to move forward today. Those are your vital functions. That's what you came to work to do today, is to generate leads, convert those leads into prospects, and convert those prospects into clients, future clients, or pre-approved clients, right? So it's pretty simple. That's the approach that we all are supposed to be taking. And if those are your vital functions, number 1 is make it rain, generating leads for your business. It's first on the list for a reason. Nothing else is going to happen if you're not generating those leads. And the fact that they spend time on it, the great equalizer, or the more you prospect, the luckier you get. There's just so much truth to all of that. The universal law of need really stood out to me. I highlighted this line: when you reek of the foul stench of desperation, people don't want to do business with you because you're pushing, and they can tell, and that you're not really there to serve them. You're really there to serve you, and people can sense that. And so that's a great one. The 30-day rule obviously plays out really well. I know Jay's going to talk about that, but in the first chapter, I want to make sure that I point this out. This section where he talked to the guy who he talked about the law of replacement, where the guy talked about how they really did a great job of prospecting for a couple of months, and then they took their foot off the gas on prospecting, and they focused on taking care of the business. This is a really classic problem in loan officer sales, because you'll see loan officers production when they first start kicking it into gear. It'll roller coaster. They'll have a good month, and then they'll have a bad month, and they'll have a good month, and then they'll have a bad month. That right there is the number 1 reason why you want to focus on turning over a file that can be touched once in underwriting and approved, so that you don't have to get back involved. Every time you have to go back and get involved, and this has happened to us, this happens to everybody, at some point you have to figure out that the only way that you can be really focused on prospecting is to get really good at not getting drugged back into your own files. And I know it's a common thing, and it happens. It just happens if it's happening to you, that's the number 1 reason. So that's a big takeaway. I hope everybody caught that. I could keep going. There's so much good stuff in here. I'll stop now. Well, I have one more. The impact of daily prospecting on his performance that quarter that he went from 0 to hero in just 3 months makes an indelible impression. It was a lesson. I think that's one of the things that happens to a lot of salespeople, is especially if they haven't been doing a lot of prospecting, is that they prospect a lot for a day, maybe 2, and then nothing really happens, and they stop doing it. And you might as well have not done it at all, honestly, because nothing's going to happen really. It's that 30 days of consistency, and then it's consistency forever. That's going to make all the difference in the world. So who wants to go? Dean, I'll let you go ahead, go next, and then we'll start going around the room. And then try not to take as much time as I did. I'm sorry. I want to get to everybody and get everybody off the call.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think these 3 chapters are almost the real heart of the book. Chapter 6 is my favorite, know your numbers. I like the formula they have: efficiency and effectiveness equals performance. And it's about how effective you're being, and knowing your numbers helps you be more efficient and effective. And the other part that I love as a quote is, you cannot be delusional and successful at the same time. And we often fake ourselves out thinking we're really working hard and we're delusional about what we're really doing. And so he just really hits it. You've got to know the numbers and know what they are. And they're not right or wrong. It's just, they are what they are. And then you work from that.
Right. So that's a great segue. That's a great segue over to Jay, because Jay was talking, we talked about this yesterday and what you've started to do with additional tracking that you're doing. So go ahead, buddy.
Yeah. So these chapters really helped me learn a lot about myself and, you know, how I am and things that are affecting me right now, like the 30-day rule. You know, I know I got pretty bogged down with a lot of minutia in December and, you know, not prospecting as hard as I should have. And I'm paying for that right now, but definitely seeing the rewards of the hard work that I'm putting in, you know, these past 2 weeks, to get more appointments and to get more leads and eventually get more applications.
So what have you started to do? Talk about what you've started to do as far as you're tracking your prospecting activity.
Yeah, so I started using a tracking sheet where I'm tracking my dials, my talk tos, my appointments, and, you know, and my leads. And that's really helped me understand my conversions better and, you know, help keeping me accountable and making one more call and turning it into a game has really paid off for me.
Yeah. And I know one other thing that we did as it relates to like what I had in the Friday focus this week, Jay and I had a meeting yesterday and it was originally scheduled for 10, but that was his prospecting time.
Oh.
And we talked about that and he goes, well, that's supposed to be my prospecting time. And I'm like, okay, we'll move the appointment. I don't want you to schedule a coffee with me over prospecting ever. So you do your prospecting first. I'll move my calendar for that. So that speaks to what I wrote about today. Thanks, Jay. That's great stuff. I think that's one of the things that I hope that you guys are starting to put together is we're tracking the result side of the prospecting activity, the leads, the credits, and the application. You have to start tracking the other part, which is dials, talk tos, appointments set, appointments held. Like you've got to start tracking that data so that you can, you know, determine the relationship between how many calls do I have to make to how many appointments do I have to set, that kind of thing. Ocean, go ahead. Nope.
Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Yeah, so I just like the part about the perfectionism and like the procrastination side of it, where they're talking about like, you know, you need your desk to be organized before, you need to write up your script, have it perfectly centered on your desk, things like that. And it just reminded me of a time when I was like 2 weeks ago at a trampoline park and I was trying to learn a backflip and the lady was like, just walk in a circle and do it. I was like, okay. And then I did it. And I was just thinking about the same thing about like making the call, like just do it. Just like, I don't know, just walk in a circle and make the call. So that's been my thing.
Right on. Dennis.
So I'm definitely guilty of the analysis paralysis, and I think a lot of it comes just from being in the data world and just sort of all those metrics and measuring everything out and just being ready to capture all that. But that said, it's given me much more meaningful guardrails about time spent. And, you know, it's true. If you just dedicate those 2 hours to do nothing else but bang on the phones and call people, and, you know, I segment mine into touching base with old people that I know, and then also cold calling on realtors, new realtors. I just divvy it up accordingly based on the volume of people that I've found. So that and the consistency, just you know, if I ever get lazy, I just read some of that stuff and it is just a slap in the face. I get fucking doing, man. What are you doing? So
right on. Let's see, Jessica.
Hey, I got a lot from the chapters. They just resounded really big in my ears and my mind. So I'm just still trying to just adapt and like put it into practice. I just want to make sure I can make that happen. This last week I got bogged down in the admin side of our business, which is the loan work. And I'm like, oh no, that's going to bite me. Like, like, oh no, because you said like one day is going to affect this and 1 week will affect that. And I'm like, no, like, so I'm kind of freaked out about that right now. I just want to catch up. And then he said not to do that, but I also just kind of walked away thinking like, I have some big whys, like my whys are huge, like, and my whys mean that I have to be consistent. Like I can't just do the roller coaster thing. Like I can't allow my why to suffer because I'm not putting in the time to prospect. You know what I mean? Like the goal is big. It's too big. And so you just can't like wave, we can't just go up and down. So what is it going to take to be consistent? And like, what do I need to do to like be consistent, like no matter what? So definitely gave up some prospecting time this week and I'm feeling guilty and scared. I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, don't feel guilty or scared. It's part of a learning process. You go through this process of learning how to process a lead. It takes effort, it takes time, and you'll get better at it. The more you do it, the better you get, like anything that you do. I'm glad that you have the focus, because what I'd rather not, I don't want you to be scared. But I want you to have that awareness. It's important that you have the awareness. Because it's what trips a lot of people up is they don't have the awareness. And then they look up and they're like, yeah, I don't have any business next week or next month. And that can't happen. The fact that you're aware of it will change everything. And it'll keep you on task. You'll get better at this. The processing of a lead is a skill that takes everybody time to master. And so you'll do it. Don't worry about it. I'm not worried. As smart as you are, you'll figure it out. Keegan.
Yeah, I think chapter 5 really resounded, especially with the shit I was dealing with and this loan. And I think Dave said perfectly. You came in my office and like, you lose one deal, but if you had 10, you're still closing 9. So like, and the chapter talked about just fill your pipeline. So that one miss doesn't hurt you or affect you as much because, your pipeline's full. And when you just only have a couple, it really, can affect you. And so that definitely resonated. And I was like, oh man, this literally just happened to me. I also like the how you create your own luck, how he referenced Arnold Palmer. The more I practice, the better, or the luckier I get, which I think is definitely true. And
the more you prospect, the luckier you get. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Well, yeah, exactly.
This has been like this. The business has been like this. I've been in this for 25 years, and for 25 years, that truth has never changed. Is that when if you don't have enough business, every deal becomes that much more. He talked about it. Every deal becomes that much more important to you. And then that causes you to focus in a way that produces the result that you don't want, because you're focusing on what's going to happen if I don't get it. And then you bring that into your world, and it's just natural. So I don't have to tell you this. Somebody else wrote about it in the book. So, this is just a truth, and I've seen this like my whole career. And the answer to the question of when you lose a deal has to be like, shit, I don't have enough deals, because you're always going to lose deals. They're just always going to happen. Like it's sales. Like you will lose deals. If that book, in the price objection book, Crush Price Objections, they talk about is like the first truth of sales is that if you're in sales, you're going to lose business because of price. The second truth of sales is that you're going to do business in spite of your price. We do it all the time, right? So it's the law of averages is what's at play here. It has nothing to do with you. Nothing. Yeah. There's certainly, you can improve your skill level and get to a point where, because the number one rule to overcoming price objections is to not get one. Yeah. Okay. Because if they're shopping, there's always somebody cheaper if they're shopping, isn't there? Always somebody cheaper, because that's what they do. They're looking for somebody cheaper, and then they keep looking until they find one, right? Like, so like when they come back to you, if that's who they are, then that's who they are. The way to overcome it is more leads, more deals, because you're always going to lose deals. If you want to close 5 deals, lock 6.
Right.
That's the deal. Like if you
Yeah.
want to close 5, you better have 6. And
Yeah,
every
and-
now and then you'll close 7 because another one will come in that you weren't expecting. But you want to close 5, lock 6. You want to close 4, lock 5. It's just math. And
Yeah.
we don't have 100% conversion ratio here. It's about 85%.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good learning experience too. Going through all that and realizing, sometimes you got to cut it off before it gets too deep. Instead of wasting 2 days trying to get a deal, it's like, all right, you know what? Yeah, I think Casey told me, he's like, at a certain point for your sanity, just be like, look, go with the other guy.
Yeah. And then like, hey, if it doesn't work out, give me a call. Casey,
Right.
what do you got?
Well, I'll be honest. I left my book when I left my house on Sunday, so I didn't finish reading the chapters.
Thank you for your honesty.
Well, I'm not allowed back in my house, so can't get it. The big thing for me this week was really just getting back in and dialing in the goals. And I talked with Dave about this on Wednesday, is taking our Q1 goals and making them those SMART goals, and you read the Friday focus that's been coming out too, really telling yourself that there's a deadline, and are you the only person that's accountable if you don't do it? Yeah. But when you don't do it, man, that's a bad feeling. Right. So it's not that hard to just get it done and stick with what you say you're going to do.
Right on. Yeah, for sure. It feels great when you've scheduled it and then you do it. It feels great to like check the box. That's the goal, is check the box every day. So right on. Thank you, Emily.
I think for me, a lot of the lesson or realization came from the 30-day rule, similar to everyone else, and kind of just like the perspective of the present is never really a reality of what you're doing in the present. Like the present is a reflection of the past, and then what you are doing in the present, you're going to see in the future. So a little bit of what I've been feeling, I think, is why this stuck with me, because like right now I feel like I'm, prospecting a lot more, and I'm like, why isn't anything happening? And then the realization of, oh, what was I doing 30 days ago? Not what I'm doing now. So kind of just that grace, and kind of speaking to like what Jessica was saying, is like realizing that whatever is happening now is either a result of your past or like an indication of what's going to come in the future. It's like very rarely in our business, what we're doing now is actually going to reflect in the present. So that's kind of just like a mindset that you have to wrap your head around, which is kind of like anti a lot of mindsets that we have in life.
Well, and I hope it makes you feel, that recognition of that truth should make you feel a lot better about what you're doing today. Because if you believe in that, and how could you not believe in it? Because your current reality is a reflection of what you were doing 30 days ago, right? And 60 days ago and 90 days ago. I always say we're working 30, 60, and 90 days out, always. So if it's true, and it is, because look at your business right now, everybody look at your business, how much prospecting were you doing 30 days ago? How much are you doing now? Like going, okay, well, the good news is if I just keep prospecting 30, 60, 90 days from now, it's going to look amazing. So I'm going to just keep prospecting.
And then the trap in that is when you get to the future and it's amazing, you're like, cool, I can stop. But then it's like being in that spot of the present because of the past paying off, then it is such a cycle. And I think that just having awareness to that, something clicked with it where I'm like, okay, like this is kind of, all making sense now, just stuck in a different way.
Right on. Jacqueline.
I'm going to echo what everybody else is saying, but the 30-day rule is definitely something I've focused on the most. That was probably my favorite part. My ninja coach focuses a lot on that. And she just talks about, well, what were you doing? Anytime I say, yeah, I'm a little slower now, it's like, well, what were you doing 90 days ago? And so, and the hard part about that with what Emily said is right now, it feels like I'm doing a ton of work and I'm not seeing a lot of things come to fruition, but I know I'm doing the right prospecting activities, which is hard for me right now because I know I'm probably not working at all in the second quarter. So that's a little scary. It's like, okay, well, what exactly am I going to create for whoever is covering me while I'm on leave, but knowing that I've got to just constantly create that presence. And I think that's really evident in what the market's done is people really haven't had to prospect for the last 2-3 years. Like you just wake up, show up, and you had 5 leads in your inbox and you didn't really have to do anything and try that hard to get it. And so I think everybody's business probably topped out a little bit more than they wanted it to because people weren't doing the prospecting. And I think if you look at the numbers of people who were consistent, I think Christine's probably a pretty good example of that, is because of her background and the way she does sales, she's stayed a little bit more consistent than me at least. And because she's done more of the prospecting work. So getting back into that mindset and stuff has definitely been helpful. And then the part about knowing your numbers and just knowing like how many phone calls are you actually making and just making the phone calls, doing the prospecting work. I finally started making phone calls again for birthdays and stuff like that. And I haven't done that for a while. And just starting to see that stuff where I'm like, I'm more connected to my database now and the relationship part of it. And I think that's really important too, as we go into whatever this year might turn into in the years beyond. So.
Right on. Thank you. John.
Not me. Couple things. I really like this part of the book where they're like talking about Becky has 30 prospects in her pipeline. She closes one per 10 prospects. So she closes one deal. How many prospects does she have left? Most people think 29. The real answer is 20 because you know that those 9 are trash. And so you need to get rid of those 9 and just build another 10 leads to close that next deal. So I thought that's a really interesting way to think about it. And that's always like part of that law of replacement. I've always thought about like if you have 10 realtors that you think are sending you business consistently and one moves on, dies, whatever, like you need 3 realtors to replace that person. You don't just need one, because out of those 3, you're still not going to get that one consistency. So all about that replacement. The 3 Ps, procrastinate. I'm a big procrastinator. And things I don't want to do. And
I'm not laughing at you, buddy. I'm laughing with you.
Hey, I know. Well, you know, procrastinate, ADD, all those kind of things. But the most effective thing I can do on that is kind of the win by noon theory, is that like I'll put something behind what I don't want to do that I want to do. So like I don't want to work on this or do that, but I'll say, okay, I'm not leaving for the day or I'm not doing whatever until I've done it. And then you just do it. Takes 5 minutes. You might have procrastinated to do it 2 days. So that's really the most effective thing that I've ever kind of come up with, is putting a reward behind the barrier there. Price shoppers, this is not really in the book, but we've brought it up a couple of times. I kind of learned this a couple of years ago when I first started here in Colorado. Like if I get a price shopper, I don't really engage that much in the conversation. If somebody's telling me they're price shopping, I pretty much just change the subject and move on with the normal activities that I do with that client, finish my presentation, continue in conversation with them, continue to give them loan options. And I find that that always actually works the best, because if you don't focus on price and think you're going to lose the deal over that conversation, then they sort of have a mentality that it's not actually maybe that important. So really, like, and it's part of the book, like I don't seem desperate. I don't really seem that I care if they're going to shop me. I just move on and continue my process. And that's really been the most effective way to actually keep those people. If you focus on what they're focusing on, which is price, then you're going to lose them. But if you don't, then you can change the subject and just show your value and move on.
Yeah. We can talk more about it when we get to that book, but thank you, John. That was great stuff. Alfonso, you haven't gone yet.
So what I highlighted in the book was the law of replacement. So keeping your pipeline full, getting more in your pipeline. And, you know, if I get an application, I then have to go do the credit checklist, the 1003 checklist, document review, and that takes up time and can eat into my prospecting time, but I need to block it out so I can keep getting more in my pipeline. And the law of replacement really stood out to me because it was so right. And it wasn't something that I wasn't thinking. So.
The thing in the conversation that I had with Jay yesterday, this business is really strange. And like when Dean got here, he was like, God, this is fucking weird, because we don't have any prospecting requirements for salespeople. I mean, I can't, this isn't that kind of this isn't like pharmaceutical sales. Like a pharmaceutical rep is required to turn in like daily activity sheets and and report in, like, here's how many calls I made. Here's how many appointments I set. Here's how many people I met with. Here's how many doctor's offices I showed up at every single day. And it's like, if you don't do it, they just fire you. This business isn't like that. And maybe at some level that's a little unfortunate. Because the results are your results, and I don't want you to have to experience that. So, it's Steve Scanlon was a business coach that I had once, and he said that when he died, he was going to ask God two things when he got to heaven. Number one, why'd you make bacon taste so good? And number two was, why is it necessary to motivate a commissioned salesperson? Like, close one, get X, close two, get 2X, close three, get 3X, close four. Like, do I have to motivate you to want to go and do that? And so these are all the psychological bullshit things that go on. And what I'm telling you is that your competition isn't like this. And because, we're not like this, right? Like, at the end of the day, we haven't been like this. I want to change that here. I want to change that for all of you. if I can get you to focus on these foundational, fundamental.
We lost you.
Lost you.
Man, I'm having audio problems. Get me now? Yeah. If I can get you to focus on those fundamental truths about sales, you will change the world, and you will become the most successful salespeople in town, because your competition doesn't do this. Very, very, none of them, but very, 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 very few of them do. That, I promise you, that's the truth. Dennis, you've been doing this for how long? John, you've been doing this for how long? Casey, you've been doing this for how long? Jacqueline, how much dedicated, disciplined prospecting approach have you seen people have in this industry? How, like, any? Like, it's almost like you get enough realtors sending you business and you can stop. And that's the truth about the business. And what are you giving up in turn? And then think about all the people that you could be helping that other people are helping that aren't going to get the level of service and guidance and expertise that you can provide. So I honestly do. I wish I could force you to okay, you got to turn in your call sheets every day, and you got to turn in your appointment sheets every day, and you got to report in, and you got to go back and do it again tomorrow, or you're going to get fired. But that's not this industry, right? So, but you could do it for yourself, right? You could do it for yourself, and you're the CEO of You Inc. So go out there and crush it, and that's it, and embrace these truths. And if you want help, God, I'd love to help you. So that's why we're focusing on this activity. So let's everybody double down on, well, don't double down, just do it. One more call for the next 5 days. And let's have a lot more stories to share, and because we're all going to learn from it. And thanks, Jay, for sharing what you did. And let's everybody have an awesome day. I know we're going to do state of the company here in about 20 minutes. Thanks, everyone.